We want to educate, encourage, enable the power. We stand for integrity, honesty, self-reliance, self-defense, and most importantly, no compromise on our foundational principles. This is America's Voice Now.
Find America's Voice Now on Facebook and at americasvoicenow.org. Here's Michael Evans.
Good morning, America. You're listening to America's Voice Now. If you're just joining us, this is our second segment in our 3-hour show on Saturday. This will be our last Saturday show here on 107.1. And we're going to make it work. We're going to make it have impact. The point of America's Voice Now is to educate and inform, to motivate and activate you, the listener, to educate you about what's truly going on in our nation and the decline of the rule of law into the rule of lawlessness, the rule of men, where their whims and their foibles run our nation. To inform you, and for you to then take the education you've received and inform those in your circle of influence so that they are aware and awake to the treason and the betrayal going on in our nation. Then to motivate each of us, ourselves and those around us, to be active and involved in this fight for liberty and freedom. And make no mistake about it, this is a fight. Make no mistake about it, this is a war. Make no mistake about it, the enemy is evil itself. Evil and death. Death to those who won't toe the line. If you don't see the pieces falling into place day in and day out, you're guilty of sleeping on duty. If you don't smell the stench of corruption and death that exudes from Washington like an aura, you're asleep on duty. If you're not paying attention and you're not seeking out true news, not the propaganda that the Ministry of Propaganda, also known as the mainstream media, would like to feed you, then you're guilty of sleeping on duty. That also is a crime against humanity, against your country, and against your own family, and against yourself. You see, treason isn't relegated or limited just to politicians. And it's not just relegated or limited to your nation. You can be guilty of treason against yourself. You can be guilty of treason as the leader of your family who's abdicated all levels of responsibility to protect them. Your oath, while it may not be spoken, is just as important, just as evident, just as clear as the oath that a politician takes who's supposed to be above reproach. When you gave birth to a child, when you married your wife or your husband, you promised to do the right thing by them, to protect them. And if you are failing at that duty, you are guilty of treason against yourself and your own family. Check yourself daily. Investigate yourself daily. Introspectively evaluate yourself daily. Look in the mirror and say, What have I done today for liberty? What have I done today for freedom? What have I done today to protect my family, my community, my city, my state, my nation? As the last pillar of freedom, holding up liberty for the entire planet, know that the enemy and evil are chipping away at that with sledgehammers as we speak. If you listen carefully, you can hear the pounding.
Mike, for those people who believe it's not going to happen in their lifetime, they're going to have a rude awakening.
It's already happened. They just haven't announced it to you on the Ministry of Propaganda. They just haven't told you so. And if you're sitting there waiting for someone to tell you that the war is on, you're hopeless. If you're sitting there waiting for someone to alert you to say, it's time for you to take action, shake yourself free of the reverie of fear, the paralysis of fear, you may be too far gone to help us. I challenge you, every program that I do, to be awake and aware. If the message hasn't sunk in yet, you may have already abdicated. Abdicated your right to liberty. Abdicated your right to freedom. Abdicated your right to self-determination. Abdicated your required role and duty as a protector and a defender of this nation, your state, your family. Those people that are relying upon you to lead them, you are also a shepherd. And your flock, however small that may be, whether it's 1 or 6 or 35, they are relying upon you for leadership. Have you accepted that responsibility? Are you doing the most with it? Have you taken your level of responsibility to heart? Are you acting on it? Or are you paralyzed in fear and trepidation? Are you inactive because you're afraid? The simple fact of fear should tell you everything that you need to know. The fact that you live in fear of your own government is proof that you need to rise up and take action. Peacefully, but you need to participate and play an active role. I don't advocate violence, and I don't advocate the violent overthrow of this government. I advocate a massive, peaceful, civil, disobedient overthrow of this government. I advocate a peaceful, civil disobedient sit-in in Washington, 25 million Americans strong, millions upon millions sitting in front of their state capitals, saying, we don't leave until you do. You have sold us out. You have betrayed us. You are guilty. And we have passed judgment. And we will not forgive, and we will not forget, and we will not allow it anymore. I do advocate that Americans rise up in massive numbers and walk like Egyptians. Yes, they are in disarray. Yes, anarchy is raging in their nation. Yes, they have fallen under coup after coup after coup. You know why? Because they don't have something that you as an American were born with. That acorn of that seed, that kernel of freedom and liberty that is in each and every one of us. And with every successive generation, it gets smaller and smaller and smaller. In some of our children today, it's no larger than a BB. But you see, we have something they don't have. We have the knowledge, the wisdom, the remembrance of what freedom and liberty mean. What it's like to live under freedom. What it's like to live under liberty. They have only known tyranny all their lives. We, on the other hand, have the benefit of having grown up and benefited from the education and the knowledge that our country was founded upon freedom. And it's not 237 years old. The Pilgrims came here to escape oppression in the 1600s. It's 400 plus years old. It's a part of us. It's instinctual. Egypt doesn't have that. They haven't lived with independence in 4,000 years, if ever. That's why they're struggling. And I'll tell you something else. They didn't have a plan of action. They didn't have a plan of succession. And we don't either. And that, ladies and gentlemen, falls squarely on your shoulders and mine.
Mike, the government did not give us these rights. These are inalienable, God-given rights.
They belong to every human being. Whether you live in Egypt, whether you live in Ethiopia, whether you live in Argentina,
North Korea,
whether you live in North Korea, China, Bolivia, Mexico. The only difference between us and them is that the memory, the instinct is fresh in us. It's been covered over with layers of corruption and oppression in them. We who have that knowledge and refuse to act on it are even more guilty of its loss and abdication than they. How dare we not hold on to something so absolutely precious? How dare we allow our nation to fall to tyranny? I mean, this is our nation, people. This is our country, our world.
This is our lives, our children's lives, and our grandchildren's lives we're looking at.
If you will not fight for the right when you can easily win without bloodshed, if you will not fight when your victory will be sure and not too costly, you may come to the moment when you will have to fight with all the odds against you and only a precarious chance of survival. There may even be a worse case. You may have to fight when there is no hope of victory, because it is better to perish than to live as a slave. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the mantra by which I live my life. And if you cannot stand up every day knowing that is your position, knowing that is your belief, that is your firm hope, then you are of no help to us. We, the Patriots, the last standing bastion of freedom on the planet and in the world, and in the USA, we cannot wait any longer. We cannot pretend it's not happening. We must acknowledge and admit where we are. There's no alternative. There's no time left. If we do not today, if we are not willing to recognize and admit to ourselves that everything that we have built our hopes and our dreams upon, everything that we have spent our lives building, is about to be taken from us, I don't know what we're waiting for. In the beginning of change, patriots are scarce men, brave, hated, and scorned. But when the patriot's cause succeeds, the timid join him, for then it costs nothing to be a patriot. Are you in the vanguard, the forefront, or are you leading from behind? If you're a lead from behind kind of guy, you've already sold us down the river. Because we can only do this with your help. We can only do this standing together. We can only do this if all of us are focused on the goal. If our eye is all on the prize collectively, what is that prize? Liberty, freedom, constitutional government. The ideals that our founders built this country upon. They weren't perfect, but it is the most perfect form of government that the world has ever seen. It is, far and away, the one form of government that has single-handedly lifted the world out of the Stone Age, third world poverty. When I was a child growing up, I used to hear the adage, "Don't waste food. There are children in India who are starving." Today, India is a thriving, growing nation. They're growing on our jobs. They're growing on the wisdom we've given them. China was a backworld, third world country, a backwater for thousands of years. We've given them our technology. We've given them our jobs. We've given them the benefit of all that America had to offer. We've done more as America to rise up a starving, blinded, ideological, and politically misshapen world. We've done more to free more people from tyranny and make more people self-reliant than any other nation throughout all known history. We, America, are single-handedly responsible for dragging the world, kicking and screaming, out of poverty, oppression, degradation. And now we're about to fall into it ourselves. This imperialistic attitude that we have now, that we can force democracy down their throats, that's a lie. That's not what we're there for. These wars of imperialism, which this administration and many administrations before them have perpetrated on the globe, these aren't wars to benefit anyone. They're wars of imperialism, with the sole end result of a globalist, unified, one world, new world order. And they're using our time, our money, our resources, our skills to accomplish it. And we've played willing pawns in the game. Now, the jig is up. Now, the chickens have come home to roost. Now, the truth is plain for all to see. Now, the mask is off, and the face of true evil is easily seen. And yet still, millions upon millions upon millions of Americans will not fight for the right when they could easily win without bloodshed. They will not fight even when their victory will be sure and not too costly. They prefer to wait for the moment when all the odds are against them and there is no hope of victory, when they will be forced to rise up and perish, because it is better to live as a free man and die a free man than live as a slave. I'm not waiting for that. I'm fighting now, when victory can be easily won without bloodshed. Where do you stand, American? You're listening to America's Voice Now. Find us on the web at americasvoicenow.org. Find us at facebook.com/America's Voice Now. Find us at youtube.com/America's Voice Now, where this and every other program that we do is posted daily. We'll be back in just a moment.
Ladies and gentlemen,
This is
KBMV Birch Tree is the Ozarks best news talk 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
We believe the better the ingredients, the better the taste to bring to you the greatest tasting pastries possible. At Chantilly's Artisan Bakery, we use organic, locally sourced, and natural ingredients of the highest quality. Every item is handcrafted and baked fresh for you each and every day. Visit Chantilly's Artisan Bakery, number 2 Evans Arcade on the Courthouse Square in downtown West Plains. Or call ahead 255-2253. Be sure to like and follow Chantilly's Artisan Bakery on Facebook.
Fox News Radio, I'm Lillian Wu. A gunman and 6 others are dead after a shooting in a South Florida apartment complex.
Samira PCOT just lost her mother and father. Tallow and Samira PCOT died inside the apartment complex that they managed and where they also lived.
My mom was dead.
the moment that she was shot.
But her father would die minutes later.
Kevin Ozarks with Fox News affiliate WSVN. The Lincoln Memorial reopening hours after it's vandalized.
The cleanup isn't completely done as crews plan to work through the weekend to make sure all the green paint splatter has been removed. It was splattered on the statue's leg, chair, and the base. And meanwhile, U.S. police are combing through surveillance video of the vandal or the vandals who defaced the memorial on Friday. They're seeking those involved, although they have no suspects at this time.
Fox's Elizabeth Pran, Fox News. We report, you decide.
The Battery Station in West Plains is your headquarters for getting and being prepared. Natural disasters, civil unrest, personal and family protection, long-term sustenance, and most importantly, peace of mind. Berkey bottles and home-sized water purification systems, survival food, MREs, freeze-dried food, survival knives, lanterns, ammunition, military sleep system, and of course, batteries of all shapes and sizes. Take charge of your own survival and security. The Battery Station, 303 Washington and West Plains, 417-257-7799 or batterystation.com. Are you looking to save money? Did you know that in the last 20 years, interest rates have never been this low? That's why you should make the smart call today to West Plains Savings and Loan to start your home mortgage. Just imagine how much money you'll save. Key word is save, as in savings and loan. Your loan starts here and stays here. Never would it be sold to a secondary lender. Call today, 256-3042. That's 256-3042. West Plains Savings and Loan. Equal housing lender, member FDIC.
From the Point Weather Center for this morning, we'll kick off the weekend with mostly sunny skies and a high of 78. Overnight, it'll be clear with a low of 55. Sunday should be mostly sunny with a high of 79. We'll have mostly cloudy conditions Sunday night with a low of 61. There's a good chance of showers and thunderstorms on Monday with a high of 79. I'm Rod Tanner, and for more information, visit my1071thepoint.com.
Coast to Coast AM brings the Ozarks a whole new feel for radio. Midnight to 6 a.m. every night here on the Ozarks Best News Talk 1071 The Point. Where else would you get callers talking about everything from UFOs to war trends, from mental energy to anomalies, and from lost knowledge to aliens? Listen to experts and researchers who are part of the guest list every night here on the Ozarks Best News Talk. Don't miss Coast to Coast AM with George Noory. Midnight to 6 a.m. every night here on the Ozarks Best News Talk 1071 The Point.
Sound. You're listening to America's Voice now. You know, we've been doing this program for a couple of years now. And I think we make a difference when we do it. I think we have made a difference in the lives of many Americans. I think we've made a difference in the awakening of Americans. You know, there's a friend of mine, he calls into the show frequently, his name is Glenn, and he made a comment to me the other day that I was humbled by. He said, you know, you have done more to stimulate the conversation and the topic of these issues and open it up as a point of fact and discussion than anyone else in this area for the past 100 years. I don't know that that's true, but I do know one thing. I agree that America's Voice Now has been successful at that goal, that issue, to open up the line of discussion, to talk about the elephant that's standing on our feet that no one else wants to talk about, to acknowledge that there's an elephant on our feet, and we can't pretend he's not in the room, that we can speak about the fact that the king is strutting down the street, bare naked for all the world to see. And he can pretend he's wearing fancy clothes all he wants. But we can see the truth. and we can accept it and acknowledge it, discuss it, and know what to do about it. That's the goal of AVN. That is the whole purpose of what we do. I hope that we have been as instrumental as Glenn thinks we are. That would be gratifying. You know, I'm no leader. I'm no fancy politician. I'm no trained journalist. I'm just a guy who sees the truth and speaks it. You know, I have a lot of people say, boy, what you say on the radio is true. I just wish I could say it. And if I've been given the gift of being articulate enough to express what everybody's thinking, I thank God for that. I just ended up with that genetic material. But each and every person can make a difference in so many various ways if they'll just sit down and use that creative, brilliant gray matter. Shut off the faucet. Stop drinking from the fire hose of propaganda. Think outside the box. How can I make a difference? And let your mind run with every possibility. I never dreamed 3 years ago that I would do a radio program. I never dreamt that I would have the ability to express and voice all that I saw to be wrong. I never dreamt that I could make a difference on a regional or a national or a global scale. And I may not have still achieved that. But I'm doing my darndest. And you should be too. There are many, many ways that you can support and defend and protect this nation. There are many, many ways that you can raise the cry of liberty and freedom. Not everybody was a Thomas Jefferson. We needed some Paul Revere's out there, you know. Not everybody's a Paul Revere. But we needed some Ben Franklins out there, you know. Not everybody's a Ben Franklin. But we needed some brilliant military George Washingtons out there, too, you know. Everyone has a gift. Everyone has a talent. Everyone has a skill. How will you use yours? Go ahead, caller. Welcome to the show.
Good morning, Mike. It's sad to see you go, but I guess that's the way things happen.
We're not going away.
Well, I hope not. I'd love to hear you in the mornings, you know, every day. I sure wish we could find a radio station right here so that everybody's used to listening to you can keep listening to you.
I'm still working on it. There are radio stations that reach into West Plains that aren't in West Plains.
Well, anyway, what I called about is that I think it was Senate Bill 325 and House Bill 436. And, you know, you're not going to be around, but, you know, somebody needs to beat the stump because our Firearms Preservation Act in September, our Congress and Senate or whatever is going to go right back there and take that up again. And we do have a veto-proof majority, but I find that our representatives are short-minded. And if somebody ain't beating the stump, you know, come September,
yep,
it may just lay there and die.
Let me tell you something. America's voice is not shrinking away like the shrinking violet. What we're doing is we're taking this opportunity to blossom and bloom and mature. So let me tell you, don't make the mistake of thinking that just because we're off this station, we're going silent. I will never go quietly into that dark night.
I'm sure you won't.
And I'm here to tell you, one way or to other, we will continue broadcasting. I don't care what it takes, how it's done. We will not stop.
That's a good attitude, Mike.
We stand for liberty. We stand for self-reliance. We stand for freedom. And I'm going to proclaim that from the rooftops until they shoot me off the peak.
Well, I've been with you, buddy, ever since back in the cheese days. And I tell you what, I called my sheriff and all my commissioners yesterday. I want to make sure that everybody knew about that meeting Monday.
Well, I'll tell you what, I've been announcing it. If you're not aware of it, folks, you better be here on Monday when we have this congressional hearing here at in the Civic Center in West Plains. It starts at 1 o'clock. It's seating first come, first serve. And Jason Smith, the representative for the 8th District, and Billy Long, the representative from, I don't know what district they call it, but it's out by Springfield, they'll be holding it. It's an actual congressional hearing, but they're going to hold it locally here. It's like a remote, it's like they're moving Washington, D.C. to here. Now,
we need to meet them there, too.
I commend them for doing that. Where I find they've fallen short is refusing to allow any of us who are actually involved in the Blue Ways fight to speak at the event and to testify at the event. They'll allow written submission of your comments and your ideas. But they're barring the selfsame people who were the coordinators in the Missouri area who put all that fight on from speaking. And that I find unacceptable. And I would like every representative, every person, who attends that event to let those representatives know that that's unconscionable, that they would take the selfsame people who stood up on their own time, their own dime to fight this thing, who are now being treated as if they're pariahs and not welcome to speak at a congressional hearing. I'm not saying that they're not doing the right thing, but is this political kabuki theater meant to serve their own electoral purposes for the next election? Or is this a true investigation? Or is this just Broadway, off-Broadway? Why is it that Doreen hasn't been invited to speak? You all know Doreen. She joins us every Friday. She's articulate. She's forgotten more about law than these people know. Why hasn't Parker been given an opportunity to speak? Why? Because he ran against him in a primary? If the guy was truly interested in healing the community and creating a unified force, he'd invite Parker on and say, this is the guy who ran against me, but I believe so much in what he says, I want you to hear him. That's what I'd do. That's what I'd do if I were the representative. I'd say, this man isn't my enemy. This man is my friend because he thinks the way I think, that liberty and freedom come first, that you have a right to be notified when your land is going to be taken from you or used. And while I may have the seat, his ideas and mine coalesce. That's what a true leader does. A leader surrounds himself or herself with great minds.
Well, I called Jason Smith's office and mentioned Doreen Honest. I said if she was there, I would appreciate it if they would allow her to speak because she knows more about the Blue Ways probably than anybody up there that's talking.
She's forgotten more about the Blue Ways than they know collectively together.
Yeah. So, well, when they don't let the Republicans in to see the president because he's a Democrat, what do you expect in this country?
Holy smoke, huh? College students turned away. College students turned away because they're Republicans, and they're turned away because for the president's protection. Are you smoking dope or what to think that way? That just because a kid is a member of a Republican coalition on a university campus, he's a danger to the president? Boy, these people are more paranoid than I thought.
You're right.
And if that doesn't tell you the smell of desperation pervades them, I don't know what does. You see, the mass media is keeping it from America, but they smell it, they see it, they see the rise of liberty and freedom coming across America like a wave. And boy, it scares the living hell out of them. They're nervous as long-tailed cats in a room full of rocking chairs because they see that America is starting to come awake and standing up and saying, wait a minute, put the brakes on. This is unacceptable. This is wrong. We're not going to tolerate it. And they're doing everything in their power to keep other Americans from hearing that so that America does not collectively band together and say, enough is enough.
Well,
they don't dare let us work together.
It's been a pleasure listening to you, my friend.
We're not going anywhere. We just won't be on Saturday morning, but you'll be able to listen to us on the call-in line. You'll be able to listen to us on YouTube. You'll be able to capture our show streaming live over the web. And trust me when I say to you that there are other radio stations that cover our area that I am working with right now.
I'll be listening.
There ain't no guarantees in this world, but I can tell you this. I'm fighting every day to make sure that our community, where we got our start, has an opportunity to continue to listen to this program. It'll be on a different station, but hey, that's just a dial turn away. In fact, any station that will pick this show up should be applauded by our audience and our sponsors for doing the right thing, for having the courage to stand up, for having the courage to put on the truth when everyone else is telling lies. Thanks, brother.
I'll see you, Mike.
Talk to you. You see, when someone does the right thing, you praise that activity. But we never drink the Kool-Aid and give them blanket absolution for abject failure. Like a good parent, like a good boss, like a good manager, like a good owner, we say it when they've done the right thing and offer praise. And we correct when they do the wrong thing. Our job is to be a good manager, a good owner, a good boss. And let's make no mistake about it. They work for us. Not quite sure where this concept of the employee is greater than the boss came about. But when we've got to wait for our employees to tell us it's okay to speak in our own boardroom, I got a problem with that. Go ahead, caller. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, greetings and salutations.
Greetings.
I want to thank you and Fast Eddie there. Fast Eddie, he's a man of few words, but he's definitely a man of action.
Yes, he is.
And he's got a heart of gold.
And the warrior heart of a patriot.
I'd like to make a suggestion, if I may.
Please.
You've heard of micro-broadcasting?
Yes.
That might be an option for you there in West Plains. And if I was there, I'd definitely be doing it myself. But I'd like to help people if they want to get involved. I've been in electronics for 50 years or so. And if they want to email you, and if you can get a hold of me, I'll be glad to help them personally.
Well, what I'm going to ask you to do is email me yourself with your phone number, and I will call you after today's show.
All right.
Why don't you send me an email to Mike at americasvoicenow.org.
Will do. There's another possibility. There's a station, I think it's up, it's north there somewhere. It's on 88.1. It's on that.
It's a not-for-profit station, and their towers are down, and I've looked into it a little bit. I'm not sure what the ramifications are of trying to obtain a station like that, but they're not, they're on the other, they lean a little to the left of center. And,
they have some of the same goals, though.
Well,
I mean, what we're all fighting for is basically the same thing.
Sure.
It doesn't make any difference whether you're on the right or left.
Yep.
We all want the same thing.
Well, one thing that our listenership can do and should be doing is, and I don't care if you're in this local broadcast area, because we have listeners. I got a call from Texas yesterday. I got a call from Texas last week. There's a lot of folks in Texas who listen to America's Voice Now. I was so impressed by the total number of them. One of them actually contacted me the other day and made a pretty substantial donation to our project here. Let me tell you, these folks catch our show every day on streaming it live. One of the things that you can do, we've got folks that listen to us in Maine, Michigan, Virginia, Florida, Illinois, Chicago, Dallas, Utah, California. And one of the things that you folks can do is you can contact your local radio station and say, I want this guy on our station. Give them my phone number. Give them our YouTube channel. Let them go watch a show. If they're not chicken, if they've got brass, if they've got courage, if they've got courage of their convictions, if they're patriots, if they're stalwart fighters for truth and freedom, they'll put the show on. They can call me and contact me and say, hey, send us your show. We'll put you on. I don't care if it's pre-recorded. I don't care if it goes on at 1 o'clock in the morning. Every channel makes a difference, and every ear helps. Every contact has to matter. Every contact, every touch has to matter. So if you're not in our broadcast area, and even if you are, there's plenty of other stations around here, contact them and say, I want you to carry this. I listen to you, but this is a show I want you to carry. I don't even care if it's their format. Doesn't have to be. Who says just because a radio station carries music that it can never play a political talk show? Most folks that listen to country music are patriots, are they not? Most folks that are listening to Christian religious music believe in God, country, and freedom, and liberty. If they have courage, if they've got courage of their convictions, and they can't slice out an hour or two a day of programming, I've got no use for them. And you shouldn't either.
People can also use Start Page to find information on micro-broadcasting. There's a ton of it out there.
You're going to send me an email this morning, right?
Yes.
Right after you hang up this phone, right?
Right.
Okay. In fact, Fast Eddie's going to talk. I'm going to put you on hold for a second. Just hang on 1 second. Fast Eddie, pick up the pace here because I'm going to get his phone number.
Okay. How's the weather up in your part of the country?
It's great. How's it down your way?
I know what it's all about.
Pretty good. I hadn't talked to you in a long time, but I do appreciate you calling in to Mike and everything because the ideas that you have, we need more people to come up with ideas, and don't be afraid to call in and give suggestions. And everyone's important to us. We're all in this fight together, and we love our country, and we appreciate it.
Okay. You know, that is a perfect example, folks, of somebody thinking outside the box. Right? I mean, that is that's the beauty of America. Ingenuity, creativity, new ideas. You know, I'm not a guy who knows the ins and outs of the radio business. That's not my forte. That's not what I do for a living. It's not what I've ever done for a living. I do this because, well, hell, I just got tired of waiting for somebody else to do it. But that's what we need, is people who are willing to think outside the box, just like I did. You know, somebody said to me at this station one time, hey, you know what, you got a good voice for radio. Why don't you sit in on one of our programs because we have a host that's going away on vacation? And I said, sure, I'd do that. And then they came to me and said, you know, we got a guy who runs a 3-hour show on Saturday mornings, and it's a lot for one guy to do. Would you be willing to co-host with him? And I said, sure, I'd do that. And then he said, you know, I got to step away from the show. I got some personal family issues I got to deal with. Do you want to continue the show? And I said, sure, I'll do that. And America's Voice Now was born. It's thinking outside the box that counts. It's creativity and ingenuity. I'm not a trained radio professional. I'm not a trained speaker. I spent my life in the telecommunications industry. Nothing to do with radio. Lots to do with wireless, but nothing to do with radio per se. I don't know the difference between a doppelganger and a...
Careful.
Really. That's not my forte. But I do know truth. I do know liberty. I do know freedom. I do know our Constitution. And I'm not afraid to speak about it. Go ahead, caller. Welcome to the show.
Morning, Mike.
Morning.
How you doing? This is Company.
Hey, good morning, Company.
Hey, I just wanted to thank all the listeners and the advertisers that helped support it. Not only America's Voice now there in West Plains on the point, but the advertisers as well that did support us, and thank them, and give your listeners maybe one more angle. If you're approaching another radio station or whatever, if you own a business and believe in what Mike is doing, you can step to the plate with that local radio station, and when you call them and say, I wish you'd carry this show, and then add another line, and my business is willing to support it through advertising on this radio station.
Thank you for that awesome input, because that does trigger them. They don't care about patriotism necessarily, but they sure care about revenue.
Yeah, and quite frankly, in this day and age, the free over-the-air broadcast business model is a tough one, as we've learned the hard way.
Well, let me before, because we're gonna get cut off in just a minute. But I tell you what, I want to thank you, because you were the guy who allowed America's Voice to have free reign on the air. And every person who's listening to this broadcast ought to understand and recognize that there's very few folks in the world who would have done what you did. And I, for one, on their behalf and on mine, are grateful to you.
Well,
thank you.
Thank you. Well, it's a community effort. In this case, the community of the radio station that you're part of. But it takes advertisers, it takes listeners, it takes the whole group together.
Yeah, but it takes somebody like you who is willing to let this show air without censorship, without limitation.
I think we've only had one discussion in the 18 months that I've been involved about a particular topic, and that wasn't even censorship, now was it?
No. I was talking about getting rid of antidepressants, and somebody called up and said, he's not a doctor. And Mark said to me, you might want to just throw out there that this isn't medical advice. And that was more for my protection than anybody else's.
But, our door is going to be open Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, starting at 8 o'clock. So if anybody wants to come in and have coffee and visit, we'll be glad to see you, because, Wednesday's our last day.
Outstanding. And I will be here Monday through Wednesday, and I'd love to have an opportunity to hear from some of you folks.
He loves Long Johns with Bavarian cream in it, if anybody wants to bring him one. Have a good one.
Mark,
thanks,
you, brother.
Thank you, company, AKK
Designs.net.
The hottest topics this week on The Alan Colmes Show, from hammering out the details of immigration reform to finding out what the NSA really knows about all of us. We'll debate the hottest issues affecting America. Plus, is there such a thing as a former homosexual? Christopher Doyle from Voice of the Voiceless joins me on why he started his own Pride Month this week on The Alan Colmes Show.